When they think of life flight, they think like we fly on crazy accidents or like only in the mountains.
So there's like you can drive yourself. There's you need to take an ambulance. And then there's we're going to put you in a helicopter.
Ground speed, I think normally is 140 miles per hour. Once you do this job, it's really hard to leave it.
When there's a helicopter coming to and from a hospital, everyone's just like,
it is a absolute minimum requirement that you have a minimum of 3 years of ER or ICU experience. We're the only civilian hoist team in the nation.
Are you like in live contact with the receiving physician?
What's the weight capacity of a helicopter?
We transport patients that are ventilated, so that is something you have to know how to do.
Do you go on a flight every day?
Well, Megan, thanks for coming. I think this is great to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
This is a weekend. You are a life flight nurse.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool. When Tyler and I, we're brainstorming some things on our professions to have on this was not one that came to mind at all.
Yeah.
It just wasn't on our radar. I think nurses and doctors were on our radar.
Like big industries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like a nurse that's on a helicopter, it's like, yeah, that's kind of a given, but like we just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So the purpose of this is really just understand where you came from.
Totally.
Have that be a small portion of our episode as we're talking here. But then the majority of it is like, if there's any advice or what people need to know in order to get into this industry and how do they prep and what do they need to do and stuff like that. So how did you get into this? Like, have you always wanted to be a nurse?
Yes. Childhood?
Yes and no. So I was really weird and had adult conversations with my mom when I was a kid, and in like 7th grade decided I wanted to be a nurse anesthetist. And so that's actually what drew me to nursing. But then once I got into nursing, I liked it more than I realized, and I moved to Utah. And so in Utah specifically,
You're originally from
South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, and so in Utah specifically, they don't use nurse anesthetist as it's more dominant in other states than Utah, and I like living here, and so I was like, okay, well,
wait, when you say nurse
anesthetist?
What's
the first time I've ever heard that?
Is that different from a normal nurse? I'm dumb. Just assume I'm dumb.
Okay, hey, you.
I'm dumb too, so I don't know what that means.
Okay, so do you know what an anesthesiologist is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so they work under an anesthesiologist. It's the same as if you think of like a physician that has like a PA or an MP that works underneath them, same concept. And so a nurse anesthetist works in ORs or whatever space they're in, and they help put people to sleep and like manage airways.
Yeah.
Like, so they're the ones that give you the medicine that make you go night-night, paralyze you, give breathing tubes, or do that type of thing.
And you said they don't do that in Utah?
Interesting.
It's not as common. The anesthesiologist group is pretty strong in Utah. And so like with Intermountain and stuff, it was like pretty much you only could find positions in really rural areas because you can pay them less. And so it's the same concept like MPPA, you can pay them less. So it's becoming more popular to use them for a hospital budget kind of perspective. But it's kind of slow to enter the field in Utah as dominantly.
Born and raised in Utah, I've never heard of that before. So
what drew you to that specific?
Me and my mom, like we talked about like perfusionist, which is like the person that when someone goes on like heart and lung bypass, they like do that. Like we just talked about these weird fields because my mom was also like intrigued, and it was pretty obvious when I was a young kid that I had like a science brain. Yeah. And so like we would just talk about these weird jobs that could be really cool and like make it worth going to school or whatever. And so that was just one, and I was like, sounds good.
Sure. Was your mom in healthcare, hospitality?
Not until actually she was older. So she did a business degree when she was younger, and then was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. And then when we were older, she started slowly going back to school, and she got her doctorate in pharmacy.
Oh, okay.
But she actually didn't finish that until I had moved to Utah and was a nurse already.
Oh. Okay.
And so, yeah, it's just, I don't know. We just had weird conversations, I think.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so she helped me like find that interest. And so then I was like, yeah, sounds great. And so it kind of like started that. And I feel like that's kind of how my entire career was like, I got into something and maybe got drawn somewhere that I didn't even anticipate. And so I was living in Georgia after I graduated from nursing school, and then I moved to Utah, and truly just Googled what the best hospital was in Utah because I had no exposure whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so I started working at Intermountain Medical Center and like amazing hospital, and was kind of bored on the floor that I was on. And so then I was drawn to the ICU. And so I worked in an ICU called shock trauma ICU. It's basically like a medical surgical trauma ICU.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a wide exposure to different patient populations, and honestly loved it, but saw Lifelight come in frequently and just other transport services, and just was like, hey, that seems really sweet.
Yeah.
And
Getting on a helicopter.
yeah. And so it's like, oh, I get to like save people and like, you know, act a little more independently in my profession, learn things that are not in my current scope of practice, and fly in helicopters. Like kind of hard to beat. And so
well, it's like everyone freezes, right? When there's a helicopter coming to and from a hospital, everyone's just like, what's going on?
I do.
Everyone. I do it too.
well, and just so you know, that never even changes for us. Like we joke all the time, like it never gets old that like when helicopters take off and land or fly over, like I will be like playing in a softball game and Lifelight's flying over, and I'm like looking up and I'm like, you guys, look, there's a helicopter.
Modern magic. Look at
Sorry.
him.
Yeah, I totally cut you off. Sorry.
No, yeah.
Oh no, not at all. I am the same.
So it's exciting. You saw that's what
So
drew you
much.
was the excitement to it.
Yeah, and honestly, like they just were very professional.
Mhm.
Their patient care was just so impressive, and I've learned along in my life that I'm not driven by money versus like loving my job. And so they don't have a lot of turnover. It just seemed like really cool. But honestly, it's very hard to get on with Lifelight specifically. And so when I applied, I was like, I'll just do it for the interview experience. Like I don't have a chance at all. And still to this day, I don't know how or why they picked me, but they did. And now I'm like, cool, I'm never going to leave. You're stuck with me. So.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Well, thinking about qualifications then, like,
Yeah.
is there anything that you have to know or be able to do differently than any other nurse in order to be on a helicopter?
Yes.
That's like under the assumption that all nurses that's not life flight nurse are kind of the same. Right? Like a basic
I make all sorts of
requirement.
assumptions. Remember, I'm dumb.
Well,
Sure,
well,
yeah.
no. It's actually a good assumption in the sense, like, so this is like kind of a two-part answer.
Sure.
So from an education standpoint, you in most nursing jobs, including Lifelight, you only need a nursing degree.
Mhm.
You don't require like any like master's or higher level
Sure.
to be able to operate in my field of medicine. And then you could work like, that's the kind of the beauty of nursing. Like you work on a unit, and if for whatever reason it doesn't interest you anymore, like you just change to a different unit. Like that is something that's an option for you.
Yeah.
For Lifelight specifically, Intermountain, based on different grades, you have to have a bachelor's degree. That's the only like requirement that could be different from a normal, like a different nursing position. And so you do have to have a bachelor's degree. And
So
then,
nursing and bachelor's degree.
yeah.
Okay.
And so like, cause with a nursing degree, you can have an associate's degree in nursing and have it your RN, or
Right.
you can have a bachelor's degree and be an RN. So they're both RNs. It's just
Mhm.
different levels, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But then to the other part, your experience is what determines whether or not you meet the minimum qualifications. Because we have a certification called Ames, and based on that certification, it is a absolute minimum requirement that you have a minimum of 3 years of ER or ICU experience to meet the minimums.
Ames, like CAME.
CAMTS.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like an air medical.
Is the T silent? Cames?
Well, I can't tell if that is that my southern T or
Cames?
Cames. Yeah.
Maybe we'll just say it's a southern accent. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm like, because it probably is, but sometimes I never know.
That's fair.
So they want, which makes sense to me when I think
Yeah.
about it, right? It's
Yeah.
just like the types of things that deserve putting a person in a helicopter are mostly going to be trauma, right?
It
or
would actually,
maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
it would surprise you. I think people, when they think of Lifelight, they think like we fly on crazy accidents or like only in the mountains. But
Yes.
I would argue, I don't know the specific data, so I'm shooting from the hip a little bit on this. But I think 90% of our call volume is interfacility transport, and only like 10% of our call volume are scenes, meaning like the car accidents or the backcountry rescues or things like that. And so,
I mean, like, thank goodness, right?
Yeah,
true. Right. So when you say inter-office
Facility.
inter-facility,
Yeah.
inter-facility transport, like, are you moving people, organs, or both? That's what I see from TV, by the way. It's like that.
So there
Thanks,
is.
Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some things are accurate. Some,
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is there's a donor program in Utah that's like a separate company. We have a contract with them that they move organs, but that is not my job responsibility. And so I'm speaking to like people that are in hospitals that are typically more rural, but just smaller facilities that maybe don't have a resource that someone needs, so they have to go to a bigger hospital.
Gotcha.
So like, say for example, really easy, like someone's having a heart attack and they require like a cardiologist or some type of someone in a heart field that can do a intervention that's not available. And so they have to go to a facility that has that, like a cath lab capability or whatever that may be.
Gotcha. And is it like you're moving the person to the hospital, or you're moving the doctor to the person?
So we take the person to the hospital.
Okay.
They have more tools probably available. And
well, just like cath labs, for example, like not every facility has a cath lab. And if they do, their level of availability, like the things they can do are a wide range at times.
Yeah. I'm just trying to, like, in my brain,
wrap your brain around
I'm
it.
trying to as I imagine this, I can't imagine that driving a car is more expensive than flying a helicopter.
So you're correct. So
right.
If you got in your car and drove yourself, it would be cheaper.
Or like even like an ambulance taking you.
But that speed.
So that's my question. My question is, like, at what point does that decision kind of be made of like, oh, there's like you can drive yourself. There's you need to take an ambulance, and then there's we're gonna put you in a helicopter. Yeah. Is how it feels, right? So
that's totally actually part of a transport decision that happens at a referral facility, meaning the hospital that the patient's currently at. And so it's determined on so many different factors. One can be purely distance. Like we can't put at some point, like putting someone in an ambulance for 8 hours is bad for the patient and very costly, right? Sure. And so like maybe because we also like do what's called fixed wing, so like planes. We have some planes and jets and things like that. And so, but like close hospitals, like Riverton Hospital is like one that you're familiar with. It's close. Yeah. It's common that patients go ground from Riverton to Intermountain Medical Center, and they maybe need higher level of care. Like they want a lifelike team, and so we can go in an ambulance there and provide care ground versus flying them. And so that is part of a transport decision. So there are things that are time critical, meaning like we were talking about heart attacks. So there is they want them to go from walking in the door to being in a cath lab in less than 90 minutes. So that is time critical. Or someone having a stroke, that's very time critical. Like we say all the time is brain. And so it is not worth the cost to delay transport, getting them to a specialist, because their outcomes are based on how long it takes them to have those interventions. And so those are some of the things that determine also just how sick someone is. Because there's a difference in someone that's sick and needs our resources versus someone that's super sick, very critical. So they're on a ventilator, they have lots of medications keeping them alive, those kinds of things. So those are usually flown just purely based on like how sick they are.
So it kind of sounds like it really comes down to severity and how fast you need to act.
Totally. Yep.
Okay.
I have so many questions.
Let's go. That's why we're here for now.
My other one is like, okay, so again, this is my imagination as I'm thinking about it. Like, as you're transporting a person, are you like in live contact with the receiving physician and telling them like what's kind of going on and like they're prepared, or like what is that transition?
Or are you the doctor and the nurse and the everyone else?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. All right.
But yes and no. So no. Yes, as in a joke, because we do function as a lot of people in our 2-person group. But the doc that is determining that a patient needs to leave their facility and go somewhere else is the one that's in control of that patient. And so it is up to them to call facility and get a doc to accept that patient first of all. So that's contact has to happen. And then they tell them like what's going on, why they need to be transported. That doc agrees and accepts them. And then there's like a transfer center process that happens that sets up transport or whatever. So they are the ones that determine they need to move. And they also usually determine what mode of transport needs to happen and like all that kind of stuff. And then as the receiving facility gets report from doc to doc, but then also the nurse that's taking care of the patient does a nurse to nurse report. As far as Lifelight with communication, we're very specialized at specifically just at Lifelight. So other medical transport companies operate differently than we do at times. It depends on the company. So we have like an adult team, a pediatric team, which takes care of kids, a newborn team for babies under 30 days. And so like we have a high risk B team, like we are very specialized. So the kiddo teams, they have to call every single time. So they have a communication that happens every single time. On the adult team, which I take care of adult patients, we do not call every single time because we have guidelines that we can operate within. We're trained to those guidelines. And so if we are within our guidelines and everything, if we feel good, everything looks good, we can just go because they've already been contacted. We only really call if something's not going well or we need to operate outside of our guidelines, then we have medical control that we can call to help us. And that is either like a tele-doc or it can be the doc that the receiving doc that patient's going to.
Have you ever had to operate on someone while in flight, or is that only doctors?
Only doctors. So we don't do surgeries. We have procedures that we are trained to do within our scope and that normal nurses don't do and paramedics. So like we can intubate someone, which means putting a breathing tube in. We can decompress a chest with either putting a needle in or a chest tube in their chest, or like a needling a heart, a pericardiocentesis. Like these are procedures that normal people like in the hospital would not be trained to do as a nurse, but it's something we can do. So we have procedures we do, but we don't operate on them.
Your job is to accept them into your vehicle, helicopter, sustain their life until they can get to point B, and then doctors take on.
And truly, like one of the things that we pride ourselves on because of the high level of care and like our ability we just have been lucky to be very selective in our hiring. And so we hire people that are truly so smart and awesome. And so we tell people we bring the ICU to them. And so when our goal isn't just to get them from A to B, but when they get to B, they are doing better. And so like whether we just have guidelines or training or whatever that may be, that can improve a patient's outcome.
When you say crew,
how
many people is that?
So
because you said 2-man earlier, right?
So obviously we have a single pilot on every helicopter or plane or whatever. And then the medical crew is either a nurse or nurse and medic. And so commonly for an adult transport, it's an adult nurse and a paramedic. This children's teams operate differently. So it's commonly a pediatric nurse and a neonatal nurse for kids under 18 going to a children's hospital. Sometimes that changes for calls like out in the backcountry. We really like paramedics to go on those calls, even if it's like a kid. So it'd be like a pediatric nurse and a paramedic because that's their specialty that they bring to our transport teams. Or sometimes like based on who's available, it's an adult nurse and a peds nurse flying together or whatever that may be.
How many people? I'm just like the logistics are just running through.
Oh yeah.
When you take it, like, how many people can you put into a single helicopter? Just like one person and your crew, or do you have to ever take more than one?
As far as like a patient?
Yes, patients.
So we can only take one patient because that's all we can provide care to. But everything we do is very weight based. And so and that's always like a foreign concept when you have never like operated in a medical air industry. So based on how much the crew together weighs, including the pilot and the 2 medical caregivers and the patient, will determine if someone else can go. And that can either be someone that we need as a third person in the back, like a respiratory therapist for super sick, like lung patients, or we do like these cardiopulmonary support patients, like a patient on a balloon pump that like is helping the heart, like those kind of things, or a family member would be like the other option. So commonly like kiddos, they don't weigh a lot. most of the time. And so they can really commonly have a pilot, the two nurses, and the patient who's a kid, and then a parent can come also.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you've gotten really good at telling how much people weigh just by looking at them.
Well, luckily, yes.
You're like, you're 210. No.
Or when the family member is like, I weigh 120, I'm like, okay, not today.
You're like, maybe 10 years ago. No.
So what's the weight capacity of a helicopter?
So you have like a gross weight, but it depends. And so we actually do safety briefings every single day and that's the pilot's responsibility. That's something that we don't determine, they do, that based on the temperature, because temperature determines the weight that we can fly with, the amount of fuel we have on board currently versus if we have to put more on for a longer distance transport, the weight of the crew. And so every single day we have a briefing where they say, okay, this is what weather looks like. This is this. And then based on our crew, we can take a 400-pound patient today, or we can take a 350-pound patient or whatever. So the only other limitation is the stretcher has a max weight, but typically if a patient is meeting that weight, that girth-wise, we can't put seatbelts on them, so we can't fly them, or like other things will determine that they can't be in a helicopter.
So then you have to default to ground transportation.
Ground or plane. The plane can do a little bit more, or ground. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'm like, I would love to give you like this is the answer, but
it's great. It's good to know.
The most common joke in not even joke, the most honest thing we say is our job is very fluid in every single aspect. And so there's no like hard rules on most things. It depends is an answer a lot of the times.
So if everyone was so just slim and slender, you could just jam pack all sorts of people in the helicopter.
Well, seats wise, that's another thing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So we have a bigger airframe than other people, and so in the back there's 3 seats. So there's never more than 3 people in the back plus the patient, and then there's 2 seats in the front. And so like in theory, the max you could ever fit are 5 people sitting in seats and 1 person on a stretcher.
Gotcha.
It's hard to accommodate the weight of all those people, but that would be like an option.
Under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
Unless you get like the doors open and someone's hanging from the outside clipped to it, like in the movies. No.
Well, I mean, we have a hoist team, but no, we would not base our weight on if we're dangling someone all the way.
Oh, it's like a hoist team would be like the ones that are like using the mechanism, the cable to like pull people up in case like search and rescue type, getting somebody out of a mountain that had fallen or something.
Or something.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of, you go on those kind of calls too? Like,
that's like a subspecialty within our program. And so it's a smaller team, and I'm currently not on that team, but we're the only civilian hoist team in the nation.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's a really cool program. It's really great for where we live. It's a service that I think the community really benefits from.
Everyone else is military?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's my other question.
Or state service, like the Department of Public Safety.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense.
That's part of like search and rescue.
Like the sheriff's office.
Oh, okay.
It's like their dive team and whatever else. It's like that.
Yes. Yeah. Like a specialty.
We should find one of those people too.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But
no, that's interesting. The hoist team. Okay, so there's like a subset. That's interesting to hear that the only civilian hoist team.
Yeah.
So it's really cool because like they can do. It's basically like if it would take them a really, really long time to get to a patient that needs help. Because these search and rescue crews who are super awesome, they have to hike in and out, right? And so if it takes them a long time to get to a patient, especially if that patient's critical from, say, like they're rock climbing and they fall or like whatever that may be,
head trauma, some sort of injury,
and the patient somewhere that a helicopter cannot land. That's the other thing. And so this would be that when this is a good opportunity to use that team, because they literally put a paramedic on a cable, and the nurse operates the cable and sends them down on a cable to land next to a patient.
And then they hook them up to the
terrifying, but also the adrenaline.
I know. I always joke. I'm like, oh, that first time you go out the door and you're like, hey, bye.
Like, wow. See ya. Be back in a minute.
Yeah.
You're hanging out and pushing the button. Next thing I'm curious is, again, lots of questions.
No, it's great.
Do you go on a flight every day? Is like, or is that like not always every day? It's like every other day. Like, what's like the frequency? Because I can't imagine. I know when I'm looking up, like we were saying earlier, that when there's a helicopter, it's like, ooh, a helicopter, and it's not like I'm seeing it every time, but I'm also not looking for it all the time.
Yeah,
so I just don't know. Like, what's like? Are you always on the plane
or
the helicopter?
It depends.
It depends. So, we are a pretty busy program. We don't fly. We have transports every single day, but we have multiple bases. And so a base, like I worked yesterday and we had 4 transports that yesterday, but there maybe was someone that was at a different base that had 0. And so, it's not a guarantee that you fly every day. If we have also season, like trauma season's a busy season and respiratory is a busy season, like winter.
Sure.
And so sometimes in between those 2 seasons, like you kind of get a lull and then it gets busy and then you get a lull and then it gets busy. But it has felt very busy this year. I don't remember numbers recently, but probably, and usually every year your numbers are higher just based on like population or whatever. And I know like 3 years ago, I think we were close to 5,000 transports for the year. It was over 4,000. It was or 4,000 for sure. So we do a lot in a year.
And when you're not flying, are you just like hanging out?
Yeah.
So it seems like you're like an on-call type of response team,
like
right?
a firefighter.
Exactly. It's very similar. We have some things like we do checks and like we have some like of our own personal requirement, education and things that we have to do.
Yeah, doing your HR training.
Yeah, exactly.
Sexual harassment training.
Yeah, the mannequins that we have to do, like all that kind of stuff. So we have some things that are required in our downtime, but then if we have nothing, like you could just chill. A lot of people like work out or do different things, but
So are life flight nurses, are they paid hourly or is it salary or like?
So it's hourly pay. And so it's actually the same as like a nurse in the ICU. There's shift differentials and all those kind of things. And
I only know that term because of Bailey. Sure, she does payroll for a bunch of nurses and stuff. But
our payroll people are amazing because our time cards are a hot mess. It looks like.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Well, you should look at one of Intermountain's pay stubs. It's like, maybe I need a degree to read this. There's 100 lines.
Am I getting paid money? Yes. Okay, we're good. Okay, I just want money.
So then, taking the nursing side aside and knowing that there are maybe some things that differentiate it from being like a life flight nurse, what would you say are like the biggest differentiated, either both positive and negative things about being on a helicopter as opposed to like being like in a different department that you're used to in the past, like even just trauma, right?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things, there's a obvious like higher risk in my job. Like I feel very safe. The aviation industry is safe. We have a strong safety culture. But obviously it's riskier to go out and get in a helicopter and fly around to different places in the mountains or whatever, than if I'm in an ICU and all day.
Yeah, it's the same reason why my car insurance is more than my house. Because my house doesn't go 75 down the freeway.
Yeah, but with that said, I am more terrified to drive on the interstate than
it is to fly
in a helicopter. Yeah. And so, just risk is higher. Another thing is in an ICU, there are people there all the time. And so, meaning I work my 12 hours. At the end of my 12 hours, someone else comes in, takes over my patients, and I get to go home on time. That is not the case in my job because once you go on a transport, that's your patient. There's no one that's coming to relieve you, so you go home on time. And so it is a possibility that, like, say yesterday I would have gotten off at 6:30, but I get a call at 6 o'clock, and now it might be, depending on the call, 2 to 5 hours later before I get back and get off to go home.
Right, because your job is not complete until you do the full transition transport, and in many cases, if you leave, you still got to come back, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you have to do the chart, which if you didn't know is apparently the most important part.
Apparently, yeah.
And then the nurse to nurse, the handoff and everything too.
Yep.
That makes sense as to why there's been a few times where Nathan's just like, hey, sorry, Megan had to go into work.
He probably is like, she basically works all the time.
Here in Utah, snow's great. A lot of skiers, snowboarders, there's accents, there's Avalanche and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that part of like the Avi team or is that you guys or like how does that work?
So there are specific Avalanche teams, like especially like Wasatch Backcountry Rescue and like programs like that, that they are trained for avalanche mitigation and like when happens in something like the accident that happened a few years ago. So they are the primary on that, but we were utilized for that for the transport portion. So we are not, we don't really help with the searching aspect of it.
Sure.
But the transport portion we do.
Okay.
So yeah, they have like amazing avalanche dogs and like all
Right.
this, and like this amazing training that we just don't have, and so we're here to support you.
Sure. Yeah, because you said earlier about there's a bunch of different teams. Like you have the pediatric team, you have the adult team, and all this other stuff. Like, so just out of pure curiosity, can someone say someone's a nurse, they're doing their own thing right now, they're like, hey, I would like to be a life flight nurse. How many different teams are structured currently that they could potentially either like apply and be part of that team, or like what are potential options, at least through Intermountain?
So through Intermountain, you can be an adult nurse, and so background would be taking care of adult patients, a pediatric nurse, which takes care of kiddos, usually at like a children's hospital, a neonatal nurse, so working in a NICU, a high-risk OB nurse, so they come to take care of pregnant moms, and so those, and then a paramedic, obviously. And so those are our 5 main, but then we have all these on-call specialists like a respiratory therapist or a MCS nurse that would go with us, but that's kind of different.
You mentioned before, but we haven't mentioned on the podcast as we were talking about right before we started, but the canines, right?
The canines.
So you also, your organization also does canine transport. Was that right?
Yep, that's correct. So we are the 3rd canine transport company in the United States. And so it was one of the reasons why we started this is, gosh, I wish I could remember the year off the top of my head, but a West Jordan canine by the name of Maya was killed in action. And from that, something they learned is that was a resource that could be extremely beneficial in Utah, because that, like, just things that we can do plus rapid transport, like I said, is always really important, and they didn't even know where to go. And so we started the program for 2 different reasons. Number one is to help give them education, so that way, because there's limited resources for them, and they spend a lot of money on these dogs. And
they do. Training and everything.
Yeah, they're incredible. And so, and like I said, it's search and rescue dogs. It's these police canines. Like they have all their specialties too. And so they put all these resources into these dogs, and so we want to take care of them also. So we started our program about a year and a half ago, and we do 2 things. So we provide transport, but we also provide like first aid and like, so telling handlers like what you can do while you're waiting for us, or things you could do and maybe you wouldn't need us. So that way, because they've never had like those type of like kind of in-depth classes.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we can provide that to communities that want our help, and then also tell them what we can do. And we do a lot of PRs where we go out and expose the dogs to the helicopters and teach the handlers, like, if you have to come with us, what to do. So we load the dogs in the helicopters and the handlers and show them how to use seat belts and all these cool things and fly them, so the dogs are not as afraid if they're around an aircraft.
Right.
And it's so awesome. And it just feels like you're getting free therapy when you get to help with that. Like, I get to be around these amazing dogs, and like, they're just so grateful. So it's been really fun to add that program. And then we had that event recently in Intermountain, which was horrible and so tragic. And in that event, there was a canine that was shot. And so we were requested, that was our first transport since the program started, and got to fly that dog. And we've been able to see that dog again. And like, we went and visited her the next day. And
that's cool.
Oh my gosh, so cool. It's just those things that fill your cup that you're like, this is why I do this job.
Right. It's worth it. I don't want to go too dark, I guess, but like, what's kind of like the downside or the realities that you would have to really come to terms with? I know we talked about like long hours.
Yeah.
There's not like a set schedule per se.
For anyone who's thinking about like, oh, this is interesting, this might be. Yeah. What would you tell them?
Realize that blah.
It can be so exhausting in multiple ways. Like, physically, sure, like you're out in the elements or you're up all night or things like that. But also there is a mental and emotional load that comes with the job. Like, you, even people are always like, what's the worst thing you've ever seen? But I think we become numb to things because truly, I bet everything I do is weird and crazy to most people.
Sure.
And there's a lot of it that's become normal to us. And we just have learned how to process things a little differently. And maybe that's healthy or maybe it's not. And so just the things that you carry with you that are not normal. And then outside of that too, like, I mean, just talking to you guys today, like my job is so foreign to you. And so most people don't know the baggage that you're carrying around because it's like, unless you do it, you really don't understand it. And so it's really hard unless you're like smart and do therapy or something like that to like offload any of that versus carrying it forever.
Yeah. I mean, I could only imagine the things a trauma nurse sees just day in and day out. On top of that, like being life flight, going into the mountains and transporting people who are like, we need this person fixed now. Like, get them, hurry, like, let's go. So I can only imagine. I probably don't have a strong enough stomach for that type of stuff. But
I know I don't.
Yeah, it takes a special person because you see crazy things. And honestly, like my personality is I operate the best when it's super stressful. Like I feel calm and just
like zero in.
She locks in.
Yeah.
And so, and like I can just like, that's when I thrive, and not everyone does. And that's okay too, because there are so many needs in this world that are for everyone.
Yeah.
So thinking about what sort of advice, if you could go back to younger self, right? Maybe not as far as like nursing as a whole, because I think like
people understand
nursing
Yeah.
and kind of getting into nursing, but going back to your younger self that before you entered into or even considered the life flight idea, or for those people who are listening who are potentially interested in that, what would be your like key piece of advice to either get into the industry or things that they could do to make it more likely they can get in, or just anything in that vein of just like, hey, if you could talk to somebody who's thinking about it, what would you say to them?
It's very important if you have certain goals to choose jobs that help you obtain that goal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a general concept, right? But specific to my job, and I'll say this is my opinion, but what translates pretty much all the time for us is, like I said, it's a minimum of 3 years in the ER or the ICU.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to work in one of those two fields before your clock even starts to qualify. At Lifelight specifically, we are very heavy critical care transport. And so we tell people, like, get in an ICU that's a good big ICU where you see lots of different patients, because the screening process is even brutal. And so to have a good understanding of the patient population, you need to take care of them before this job to ever succeed.
So like you'd have a difficult time in like a ICU in a rural area that's not getting, it's like getting a few events from time to time. Like you need to like consistent
high volume.
Well, high volume. And if you think about it, like I said, when those patients are very sick, they're asking us to take them out of there. And so they don't take care of them because they're being transported out.
Right.
And so, or the patients that come into the ER that look really sick don't ever make it to those ICUs.
Right.
Commonly. It changed a little bit with COVID. We've seen like a little bit of a shift because those ICUs had to learn to take care of patients they didn't normally take care of because just limited availability, right? And so I think that's changed a little, but still for the most part, ER is great. Like those nurses are super awesome, but they don't keep patients very long. And so as a patient gets more sick or they're ready for that specialty intervention of whatever they need, they're moved out of there. So that's why we really are heavy on ICU. You can be amazing at Lifelight or in an air medical job from an ER, and some other companies require ER, but for us, we just see ICU has translated the best.
And for those who don't know, like, I have an idea of like what ER is, but when I think of like ICU,
emergency room,
I know what it means. Thank you. Thank you. I actually think that it's not room. Is it? What does the R stand for in ER?
It is room, but most places are emergency departments now.
Oh, okay. See, they don't call it anymore. EDs.
That's something else.
But like an ICU differentiated from like an ER, like what, like. When I think ER, like my brain thinks, ER equals ICU. So like what's kind of like the differentiation between those?
So the things I think maybe a different way to answer this that will still is probably what you're looking for. So the things that you would get out of an ICU that you maybe are missing in an ER is vent management. So like patients are not in an emergency room on a vent for an extended amount of time. That means like they have a breathing tube in and a machine is breathing for them.
Yeah.
Those patients are going to be cared for in an ICU setting. So that is something, because we transport patients that are ventilated. So that is something you have to know how to do, or at least have a good basic understanding of what that management looks like. And then we'll train you to the level that you need here.
Does that equipment come with the patient on the helicopter, and then you just like return it? Well, return to sender?
We carry, like, we literally are a flying ICU.
Oh, okay.
And so
you have everything on flight.
Yep.
Okay.
So we bring a ventilator, because the FAA, if you haven't heard of them, they have a lot of say-so in things.
Yes, they do.
In my job, too.
Once you get above a certain number of feet in the air.
Even
care. Drones.
Yep, that's correct.
They control everything. After a certain airspace, it's all them.
Yep.
Federally regulated.
Yep. And so we have to have equipment that is approved for being in our helicopters in the air, flying from this place to this place. Like the event that a normal patient's on in a hospital cannot come in a helicopter.
Okay. So you disconnect, reconnect.
Yep, and manage them on the equipment we have been trained to.
So what I think, so for me, again, the layman terms of differentiation is the ER is the come in immediate care.
It's like almost like triage.
Yeah, triage. Yeah. So it's like, okay, find out which things you need to do. Once that's taken care of, then you move them to a longer term care, and it's either like ICU, like intense care, like this is a high risk, we need to watch you very carefully, or it could be
floor,
like an inpatient, like stick around for a little while, or they're like, we're good, you got what you needed. Okay.
Yeah. So like a triage and like immediate stabilization, and then they put them where they need that continuous management.
Okay.
Or our hospital is too small for you, get in the helicopter and go somewhere else.
Get them out of there.
Yeah.
All the things you need, because sometimes it's like literally like we were talking about earlier, a cath lab or something like that, but it might be a type of surgeon that, because there are some very specialized like a neurosurgeon does not operate in every single facility that exists. They're going to be at bigger facilities. And so if you have brain trauma, that like we were talking about earlier, you would have to go to a facility that has a neurosurgeon to help them.
I've been fortunate enough to not have any experience having to deal with the life flight.
Yeah.
Hopefully that remains the same for the rest of my life.
I feel the same.
But I know that there was one event up also in Intermountain, completely tangent, where it was a gun related incident where like a ricochet had gotten a guy that we were with in the neck.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, this was years ago.
This was many years ago. I was probably like 15 at the time. You weren't there, Colton, I don't think, right?
No, I wasn't.
But they had to they flew a doctor into our hospital because they were concerned about transportation of the patient at the time.
Oh, that's crazy. That's not super common.
Yes, yeah, that's why I asked the question. I was like, I thought that it was like, that's normal. It's like
they've updated their policies.
It's just like, in many cases, I would imagine that a patient would have to be in a certain type of state to be like, it's actually safer for us to move the doctor than it is to move the patient. But I don't know. Yeah, you say it's not very common. So
no, I've been with Lifeline for 10 years almost, and it's never happened in 10 years. And it like that might be like through AirMed, who operates out of the U. Maybe that's like a guideline, like something they can have within their guidelines.
They do, sure. Yeah.
And so maybe that's something they provided. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's happened. But yeah, it's very rare.
What's your favorite part of your job?
Well, the most easy, obvious answer is flying in helicopters. Like, it's very hard to be flying in a really sweet, red, amazing helicopter.
Are they always red?
Life Flight's always red.
Okay. All right.
But there's blue, out of state, there's yellow, there's all kind of paint schemes that exist. But Life Flight's like famous color is the red.
Okay.
And so that's amazing. But truly being able to work with people that all take pride in their job and can provide this amazing service and literally save people is really hard to beat. It's very satisfying to feel like you actually made a difference in someone's life. And so it's a lot easier to carry that heavy baggage that we were talking about, because you can make a difference in someone's life.
I know we talked about like advice earlier. What would you give yourself when you're younger, blah, blah, blah. But like going back, conversation with your mom, would you do this role again?
Absolutely. It really is such an amazing job. And outside of that too, we have a lot of people who have gotten advanced degrees. Like we have people who are nurse practitioners who either left and came back or never left even after getting that degree, because once you do this job, it's really hard to leave it, because the hours are really great with a family. Like I work a 24-hour shift and a 12-hour shift, and I'm done for the week a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And so like you work really long hours, but you have a lot of time at home with your families. And then, like I said, we fly in these, I mean, Utah is absolutely beautiful. It's so insane for someone that didn't grow up here. So we fly in these amazing places. We get to provide really cool care, and yeah, it's just so hard to beat.
That's really cool.
It's like going from being like, it's like after, if you're like a superstar, right? You're performing on the stage in front of all these people, and you get all the adrenaline and the rush. And then like, how do you walk away from that to go, just like
perform at a bar
occasionally? It's
exactly.
like, it feels like you're like, it's just not the same to like,
I know.
yeah, I could see that.
What, is there anywhere in Utah you don't cover?
No. So we actually cover outside of Utah also. So between either just where our bases are, because we have several bases throughout the state, and so
That's all through Intermountain.
Yep. And so we have another company, a community company that was previously known as Classic, that is a whole nother aspect that I haven't spoke to at all. But for just Legacy Lifelight specifically, we're in Logan, in Ogden at McKay, we're at IMC in Murray, Utah Valley down in Provo, and we're out in Roosevelt, Cedar City, and St. George. So we have all these bases with helicopters, plus we have a base at Primaries that doesn't have a helicopter. So all of those bases can fly at least an hour, but it's really like at least 75 minutes is really the max you would really want to fly in a helicopter before it's cheaper and more efficient to go in a plane. So those commonly go across state lines. So say I worked in Logan last week, I went to Wyoming for a patient and brought them back to Utah. So Idaho, Wyoming, Nevada, some parts of Colorado, that's all normal operation stuff. But we also have an air medical charter program that does long distance transport. And so this summer I went to Ireland for a transport.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
They just did a handoff in Tonga. And so like we have this international program that's like a whole nother piece of the program.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
you're not like, and you said this, you're
just
not just
opened a
limited to
whole other
helicopters.
box of questions.
Yeah, you're not just helicopters, also planes. And then okay.
And so we have like a normal fixed wing, like a King Air type of
like,
plane.
Is the reason why you would move somebody that sort of like international is because they live here? We're trying to get them closer to their home residence after an incident, or is that
totally? So it's either someone needs to get back home, or they're going somewhere that has a extreme rare specialty that's hard to find somewhere, or insurance purposes too. So say, for example, you went on vacation to Disney World in Orlando, Florida.
Sure.
And something happened and you got hurt and you could not fly on a normal plane to come back home. So you have an interest of being back home, and your insurance company also has an interest of you being in network, because that's better for them.
Sure.
And so it becomes smart for everyone to then pay to have you flown from Orlando, Florida back to Utah for those reasons.
I see. And then you fly on like a private
plane
to take a private jet. It's like a ICU jet, basically.
Yep.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that planes were a thing. I only thought it was helicopters.
I mean, when you think about it,
honest.
it's obvious, right?
Sure.
You just haven't had to think about it.
No, I have not had to think about it. What classifies, or what makes a hospital a base? Is it just like they have the space available for a helicopter and a plane to just be there all the time?
Yeah, so we only have hospital-based teams, meaning they have a pad so every hospital has a pad, but they have a pad that we have a helicopter that's its home place.
Okay.
And then there are crew quarters, and that depends on the base. So like a 12-hour base is going to be like they have a place within the hospital or near the hospital that you have a place to sleep if you are able to.
Oh, okay.
The more rural base is like a 24-hour base. We have a house literally next to the hospital that we can walk over, and work at. So we are at hospitals. There are companies that operate out of like airports or different areas, but we are only at a hospital.
Okay, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Those with houses, is it just like
I don't think. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
no? I just imagine like an Airbnb house that are just a bunch of nurses are just hanging out, having a good time.
Yeah, pretty much. We have like a rental in Logan that
Yeah.
is next to the hospital, and it's got 1 to 2 pilots that are either on and off duty, and then the nurse and the paramedic that were there for 24 hours.
Oh wow.
You're saying plane though, but the planes aren't close to the hospitals. They're like.
They're at the
Yeah,
airports.
I would
Yeah,
imagine they're at the
yeah.
airport. Yeah.
I imagine so. There's not a lot of space to take off.
Yeah.
What's your average flight time?
That's a great question. Probably 30 minutes on average. But I mean, we have transports that are 5 minutes, and we have transports that are an hour common, like transport times. But I would actually have to have that data pulled to.
Interesting.
didn't even
I
think
have
about
no
that.
idea how fast helicopter transport is. Like I've never ridden on a helicopter.
It's 5 to 30 minutes.
No, but like,
Like-
no, but like,
actual ground
but like,
speed.
like I'm talking about like,
oh,
because I'm thinking about ground speed. So it's like I'm like if I wanted to go from, downtown Salt Lake City to
Sure.
like the Lehigh area.
So
If you
that
drive, that normally takes what, like
half an hour
half
at
an
least.
hour, 35, 40
40
minutes.
minutes. Yeah.
So it depending on where you're lifting and landing, 10 to 15 minutes. So your ground speed time, it depends again on temperature, winds, if you have like a headwind
Oh, sure, yeah.
or like a tailwind. So those things matter. But ground speed, I think normally is 140 miles per hour.
Oh, wow.
So it's
That gives me a lot of perspective then.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like you're up and you're just
Just
140 just
blazing.
the
Yeah.
whole time.
well, it's two benefits, right? Like you go fast and you don't have to take normal roads.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like Roosevelt, we have a base out there. To fly from Roosevelt to Provo is on average about 45 minutes.
Hmm.
Oh, crazy.
And to drive that is like 2.5, 3 hours.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So back to your original question of why is it worth the money?
Yeah, no,
Yes.
definitely. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. No, and
Yeah.
I can also see why it would be exciting to be in a helicopter. Cause
Someone who's bleeding out.
even if like
Yeah.
half the time, like, and like my mind is like, oh, half the time, you're actually just like hanging out in a helicopter. Because if you're gonna go pick somebody up, it's like, oh, on the way there, you're just like chilling, you're chatting,
Yeah.
you're looking outside, and then when you get back, now you're like, okay, I'm working, like,
yeah.
I'm, like
Take care of this
taking
person.
care of this person, and you're focused on that as opposed to the scenery. But half the time you can actually enjoy the scenery.
I would imagine, and maybe this is just an assumption on my end. If you don't have any data, that's totally fine. I would imagine that those that are transported via life flight have a higher chance of survival, and or on the flip side of that, there's a lower mortality rate.
compared to
Like in
Ground
an ambulance.
transportation.
ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I obviously don't have like data
Yeah.
and studies to like back this. So I will say this is my opinion, but
Sure.
that's absolutely true because of the resources that we can provide that can increase their chance of survival when we get there. Plus, just purely time.
Speed.
Sure.
We also carry blood. So you were talking about someone bleeding out, like we can bring blood to them. And for a trauma patient, that blood is the difference of life and death.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is there anything we haven't covered?
yeah, is there anything we haven't covered?
that you
Uh,
have thought about before the podcast that you'd wanted to bring up about your job?
Well, one thing actually during the podcast as we were talking that I didn't
sure,
answer
yeah.
your question too.
Mhm.
So you were asking like the benefit of like ICU versus ED. Another thing that we haven't talked about because you probably have no concept of this
No.
is vasopressor drips. And so
I'm
basically
sorry, what?
Phaser?
What?
Phaser?
so it's a medication. So like, like if someone's getting like an antibiotic or something like that, it's in
Yeah.
a bag and it goes into an IV.
Yeah.
So there is a medication, a vasopressor that controls someone's blood pressure. And so either their blood pressure is too low, and so we give them a medication that helps bring their blood pressure up, or it's too high and we bring it down. So that type of medication drip management doesn't commonly happen in an ED. If they do, it's only like one and for a very short amount of time. Whereas in the ICU, nurses are managing medications that can be the difference of life and death for a patient. And so like a common patient population is a septic patient. So a patient that's got some type of infection that is overwhelming their organs and body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is a septic patient, basically the term is vasodilates. And so everything's just leaking out. And so they don't have like their normal blood pressure is very low, or sorry, their blood pressure is lower than normal. And so we can start medications that keep those blood pressures up and perfuse their brains and their other organs and all those kind of things. And it's so, it's kind of crazy because to me, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just like you're titrating norepinephrine. It's not a big deal. But like the difference of such a small amount is life and death for a patient. And so that's
so interesting.
Something you would learn in an ICU that not everyone has exposure to.
Interesting.
Bailey, my wife, she had pre-E a few times, and there was actually, with our last kid, everything was fine, and then we had to go back to the hospital because she got
preeclampsia.
Preeclampsia.
Yes. Yep.
And the doctors were like, we went to the South Jordan location, and then they said, sorry, we got to take you to a different location. I think it was downtown or something. And so we go through the U.
Yes.
And they said, we're going to put you in a helicopter. Like, it's going to be the fastest thing, and we got to get this going now.
Yeah.
But then come to find out, she just rode an ambulance. But for whatever reason, they changed. I was actually kind of excited that she was going to ride a helicopter, but luckily she's alive. She's good. Yeah, she was excited too at the same time. But
another thing too, Utah, you said has a lot of snow, and so weather can affect whether, like, we might want to fly someone in a helicopter, but it's snowing. There's icing conditions, and helicopters don't like ice. If you didn't know that, and so there are times that you have to take someone in an ambulance because they can't, like, based on weather, whether it's ice or lightning or whatever, we actually can't perform that mode of transport. Yeah. Like, and trust me, we want to when we need to. I think at times life flight crew members have been viewed, I think we've gotten a lot better, but in the past as being almost more like stuck up or whatever, and
kind of like the elite of
and I'm like, people do have pride in their jobs, and so that's like but we really don't have tolerance for arrogance. And so I want people to just know that if they are in an environment where they're exposed and people are not being as friendly as they would hope, that there's usually a reason. And that is like, they're really focused, like they're really trying to figure out what's going on with someone or what needs to change to help them. And so, we appreciate everyone's help. Like when we go in these small facilities, they are so awesome. They have very limited resources available to them, and they have the same goal as we do. We want people to survive and have good quality of life.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we'll come in the door and they are so willing to help. And it's just this big team effort. And so I just want people to know, like, that really is what everyone wants, is for like you to be able to go home and have a good quality of life with your family. Yeah. And so I don't know. I feel like that was like a preconceived idea in the past. Yeah. Anyone that even has an inkling that they would like to do our job, that we always are welcome. Like, we're happy to talk to people. And so, if that means like you're at a hospital and you see a life flight crew, like, go up to us. Like, we're happy to show you the helicopter. You can take pictures with us. You can't approach it unless we're there.
Sure.
But like, we want people to come up to us, ask us questions. We'll give you any opinion that you ask out of us.
All sorts of information, but no free rides.
Do you guys do ride-alongs? Occasionally, or
depends on how much you weigh.
Or
you're having a skinny day, so maybe.
No, I'm pretty slender today.
So we can't just do a ride along that is not already a generated flight. Meaning, like, someone can't just show up and we'll be like, yeah, let's just go fly you around.
Yes.
Right.
They're expensive to fly. The fuel is expensive.
Sure.
You have to be ready to go for a real thing anytime.
That too, and plus, like, aircrafts are like, they can only have so much time on them, and then they're due for maintenance or things like that. So hours on a helicopter are important too. Sorry, if we say, for example, have to fly to a PR event, we will try to like go into the hospital and say, hey, we have to fly. Like, this is a planned generated flight to go from here to here. If someone's here and wants to fly with us, like, you're welcome to come.
That's cool.
Or if we go to a PR event, we're like, yeah, you can come back with us to the hospital. You just have to get somebody to come get you.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. So we've done that in the past, or if we had to go get fuel somewhere, like gas,
Yeah.
then they can fly with us to do that. So, and actually that hoist service and the K9 service, both of those we actually don't charge for. So K9 is 100% a service provided to the community. Like, we don't bill them at all. And then hoist, that is a community service unless they need to be transported to a hospital. So if it's an actual patient transport to a hospital, there's a bill. But like, if we are just helping someone get from like the backcountry to an ambulance, or they're just like tired and having symptoms and they can't get off the mountain, like, we will fly them to a parking lot. Like, that is all free to the community. We don't bill for those either. And Intermountain is like, we are associated with we're a hospital-based company, and there are different types of companies that exist. We're a hospital-based company, and so the way things are billed, we don't go after people. Like, we're not going to go put a lien on a home or do things like that. Like, the hospital will work with you with your bill instead of putting people in bad situations. So I don't want people to ever have this like stress about the cost of something if it's something that you truly need, because Intermountain will work with you.
Well, and yes, I don't think I have any more questions.
Yeah,
No. Thank you so much. Is there anything, do you have any things you have to, like, we do self-promo time, so if there's any sort of information or things you're working on, and it doesn't even have to be related to your job, if you have something else that you have going on.
If you're like, you're now quilting things.
You have a side project or something that you want to share?
I love that you think I, at some point in my life, have.
Oh, yeah, she has time for that.
So, no, I would say, like, because our K9 program's still kind of new. I think we've gotten the word pretty far out there. But if there's, like, someone that just knows a company that would, like a search and rescue team or a city or whoever that is like, hey, I think we could really benefit from having that education, like, totally reach out to us, because we are happy to help teach anytime.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's one thing. The only plug. I am not crafty. I wish I could plug that.
Would if someone's like, yes, I want to reach out to Intermountain, like, where would they just go? Like Intermountain's website somewhere generally, or is there something?
I would recommend reaching out. We have Darby Earl is a nurse that I work with. She's kind of like our lead on our K9 program. And so most people recognize her. They're like, oh, you're the dog lady.
Oh, cool.
And so she's someone you can email pretty easily. Intermountain's email system is pretty standard. That is the first name dot last name at imail.org.
Okay.
But also, like, if they like comment through this, like, I'm happy. I work through our I'm an educator with our department, so I can help connect things. So yeah, I'm always available to chat with people.
Cool.
Even if they comment on things, like, we can connect that, and I'll help them chat with whoever they need.
Sounds good. Well, if we get any comments in the section, we'll pass them along for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
And also, if I missed any questions and people are like, oh, I would love to have wondered, like, I have a question about this or that, like, I'm always happy to chat.
Awesome. That's
So
very nice of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Megan.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. This is fun and awesome.
Yeah.
So I think y'all are doing something really cool.
Cool.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.